There are a lot of rules in the National Park Service that the public never hears about. Most of them make sense. Don't approach a bison calf. Don't leave food in your vehicle in bear country. Don't hike active thermal areas off the boardwalk. But there's one rule that isn't in any manual. It's never been printed on a sign, never been discussed at any official training session, never been mentioned in any public-facing document produced by the Department of the Interior. You learn it your first week, from whatever ranger has been at the station the longest. They tell you casually, like it's nothing, but they watch your face while they say it. If you hear a voice in the woods after dark, a voice that sounds like someone you know, do not answer it. Do not call back. Do not follow it. Walk the other direction and do not stop until you are inside a structure with a locked door. I've been a park ranger for 17 years. I used to think that rule was a hazing ritual. Then my partner answered a voice that sounded exactly like his 8-year-old daughter. His daughter was 210 miles away, asleep in her bed. His wife confirmed the next morning. He walked into the trees at 11:47 p.m. We found his flashlight on the ground 30 yards from the trail. His radio clipped to a branch, still on. We never found him. That was 4 years ago. I'm going to tell you everything I know about what happens when people break that rule. Not because I understand it, I don't, but because eventually the voice called my name too, and the voice it used, the person it chose, was one I almost couldn't refuse. I started in 2007, Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Over 800 square miles of dense Appalachian forest, more annual visitors than Yellowstone, and a backcountry so deep that parts of it haven't had a human footprint in years. My first week, a senior ranger named Garza took me on a night patrol. Standard orientation fire roads, backcountry access points, radio protocol. When we stopped at an overlook to drink coffee, she told me the rule. You'll hear things at night, she said. Wind, animals, trees falling. Normal. But if you hear a human voice and it sounds like someone you know, don't answer. Why not? Because you'll want to go find them. And if you go looking, you won't come back on the same trail. I laughed. She didn't. I've been here 11 years, she said. I've heard my mother's voice 3 times. My mother lives in Tucson. Garza, what is it? What's out there? She drank her coffee, looked out over the ridgeline. I don't know. Nobody does. But the rule works. Follow it. August 2012. Night patrol on the Appalachian Trail section between Newfound Gap and Icewater Spring. Warm night. No wind. The kind of night where the forest is so still, you can hear a spider move on bark. At 10:24, I remember because I'd just checked my watch, I heard my name. Ben. Clear, close. Maybe 40 yards off the trail to my left. A woman's voice. Not shouted, not whispered, spoken at normal conversational volume, as if the person was standing in a room, not in a forest at night. Ben. Same voice, same volume, same direction. Not closer, not farther. Exactly the same position. My sister-in-law, Rachel. Same intonation, same flat Ohio vowels. I hadn't seen her in 8 months. She lived in Columbus. I almost answered. The word was in my throat. But Garza's voice hit me. Don't answer. And I closed my mouth. I stood on the trail for 30 seconds. Nothing else came. I walked back to the truck, drove to the station, sat in the break room with the lights on until my hands stopped shaking. Called Rachel the next morning. She was fine. She was in Columbus. She'd never been near Tennessee. That fall, A seasonal ranger named Webb joined our station, 24, former Marine. Smart, fit, and completely unimpressed by anything he couldn't verify with his own eyes. When Garza told him the rule, he nodded politely, but I could see it in his face. He thought we were superstitious. After his first week, he came to me with a theory. Acoustic refraction, he said. Temperature inversions in mountain valleys can channel sound over long distances. People hear a voice. Their brain pattern matches it to someone familiar. It's pareidolia. Auditory pareidolia. It was a clean explanation, scientific, satisfying. I wanted it to be true. So explain why the voice uses the listener's name, I said. Not help, not hello. The listener's specific name, the name the source voice would have used. He frowned. And explain why Garza heard her mother call her Maria, not Ranger Garza. Maria, a name nobody at this park knows. He didn't have an answer for that, but he didn't change his mind either. I let it go. Some people need to hear it themselves before they believe it. Webb would hear it soon enough. After my own experience, I started pulling incident reports, internal ones, Form 10-343s, unusual occurrence reports that rangers file for anything that doesn't fit standard categories. Most end up in a drawer. I read everyone filed at the park since 1994. 67 reports mentioned hearing a recognizable voice after dark. In 14 cases, the ranger or visitor had answered. 11 were found the following day. Disoriented, dehydrated, 1 to 4 miles off trail, with no memory of how they'd gotten there. All 11 said the same thing. They heard the voice, answered instinctively, and started walking toward it. The voice stayed ahead, always 30 to 40 feet, close enough to hear clearly, far enough to never see. The other 3 were never found. Those numbers mattered. But what changed everything for me, for all of us, was a ranger named Dillard. In 2014, Dillard did something nobody had done before. He recorded one. Dillard was a former audio engineer. He carried a portable recorder on night patrols. On September 3rd, on the Boogerman Trail, his recorder captured 11 seconds of audio, 3 seconds of forest ambience. Then a male voice, calm, conversational, says, "Danny, down here, Danny." Danny was Dillard's first name. He ran a spectrogram. The voice was real, not pareidolia, not environmental noise. A human voice producing recognizable English words at normal frequency, captured on a recording device. So much for acoustic refraction. He played it for 3 rangers. 2 couldn't identify it. The third, a ranger named Cho, didn't just go white. She stepped back from the speaker. Her hand went to her mouth. "That's Mike Hewitt," she said. Mike Hewitt was a day hiker who'd gone missing in 2008, entered the park on a Tuesday. His car was found 3 days later. Standard search. Dogs, helicopter, grid teams. Nothing. Gone. Cho was sure. She'd checked Hewitt's permit the morning he disappeared. She remembered his voice, an unusual New England accent that stood out in Tennessee. The voice on the recording had the same accent. Mike Hewitt had been missing for 6 years when Dillard's recorder captured him, saying a park ranger's name in the dark. Nobody spoke for a while after that, because we'd all been treating the voices as something strange, an oddity, a campfire story senior rangers told to spook new hires. But this was different. This was a missing man's voice on a digital recording, time-stamped, spectrally verified, forensically real. This wasn't folklore anymore. This was evidence, and evidence meant it was actually happening. Dillard brought the recording to the park superintendent. The superintendent listened once. Then he opened his desk drawer, removed a cassette tape, and set it on the desk. 1997, he said. A seasonal named Reeves recorded something similar. The voice matched a hiker who went missing in '93. He paused. There are 4 more tapes in the archive. The oldest is from 1981. The voice on it matched a CCC worker who disappeared in 1939. 1939. 42 years between the disappearance and the recording. File your report, the superintendent said. Then put the recorder away. Don't record again. Dillard asked why. Because the last ranger who kept recording started hearing his own voice on the playback. I interviewed one of the 11 who were found alive. A ranger named Pruitt, recovered in 2009 after walking 2 miles off the AT in total darkness without a flashlight. He'd heard his brother. His brother died in Iraq in 2006. It wasn't just his voice, Pruitt said. It was the way he talked to me. The rhythm, the pauses, the breathing. It was him, Ben, not an imitation. What was he saying? He was telling me about a fishing trip we took when we were kids. Lake Norfolk, 1998. The boat, the sandwiches our mom packed, the bass I caught that was too small to keep. Details nobody else in the world would know. How long did you follow? I don't know. I remember walking. I remember his voice. Then I was sitting on a rock in a creek drainage at 4 in the morning, and the voice was gone. The voice doesn't just say a name. It engages you in intimate conversation, private memories, shared experiences. It draws you deeper with every sentence. And then it stops, and you're miles from the trail, alone, in the dark. The 3 who were never found, I can only assume the voice didn't stop. I mapped every incident, every report, every date, every location. The pattern was immediate. 80% of voice reports clustered in one drainage on the North Carolina side between Hazel Creek and Eagle Creek. 12 square miles, no maintained trails, no shelters. The reports formed a ring, voices on the perimeter, missing persons inside it. Every last known position pointed inward, toward the same coordinates in the deepest hollow in the Smoky Mountains. I showed Garza the map. I know that hollow, she said. Vegetation Survey 2004. The wrong kind of quiet. No birds past a certain point. Compass wouldn't hold a bearing. She paused. That was the first time I heard my mother, a quarter mile from the center of your cluster. I had my mouth open. Something stopped me. Not the rule. My body. The way you stop before your brain catches up when you're about to step on a snake. Nobody goes in there, Ben. Not because someone told them not to, because their feet won't carry them. October 2019. Webb had been with us for a year. Good ranger, reliable. Still didn't believe. He and I were patrolling Forney Ridge. Clear night, 38 degrees, post-leaf drop bare canopy, long sight lines, moonlight on the ground. At 11:15, Webb stopped walking. You hear that? I listened. Wind, creek noise, nothing else. Hear what? He was quiet. His face changed. Not confused. Something worse. My mom, he said. That sounds exactly like my mom. I went cold. Where? He pointed northwest, down the slope, toward the Hazel Creek drainage. She's saying my name, just Anthony, over and over. I couldn't hear it. That was consistent. The voice targeted a specific listener. Webb, listen to me. Don't answer. My mom died in 2017, Ben. He looked at me. His eyes were wet. My mama's been dead for 2 years, and that is her voice. I know. That's exactly why you can't answer. We stood there for a long time. I watched the fight in him, the rational Marine, versus the son who'd just heard his dead mother say his name. Let's go back, I said. He nodded. We walked to the truck in silence. 3 nights later, Webb signed out for a solo patrol on the Hazel Creek Trail. Checked out at 8 p.m. At 11:30, his radio keyed open. Dispatch heard 4 seconds of wind and footsteps. Then Webb's voice, calm. I hear her again. Transmission ended. Dispatch called him back. No answer. We found his truck at the trailhead, his pack on the trail 1/2 mile in, his flashlight in the leaf litter 50 yards further. His radio on the ground another 30 yards beyond that. At the edge of the drainage, pointing downhill, toward the hollow. 6-day search. Dogs lost scent at the radio, helicopter, thermal, grid teams from 3 counties. Nothing. Anthony Webb walked into the Hazel Creek drainage and ceased to exist. 3 weeks later, a backcountry hiker on the Lakeshore Trail, 2 ridges east, filed a report. At approximately 10 p.m., camped alone, he heard a male voice say his name. The hiker didn't recognize it. He didn't answer. But when I read his description, a young man's voice, calm, slight Virginia accent. I sat at my desk and didn't move for 20 minutes. Webb was from Roanoke. I need to tell you about Davis now. I've been avoiding it. Kyle Davis was my partner for 6 years, 2016 to 2022. 41 years old, married, father of an 8-year-old girl named Sophie. He was the best ranger I ever worked with, calm, thorough, and smarter than anyone gave him credit for. Davis knew the rule. He'd heard the voice once in 2018, his college roommate's voice. He didn't answer. He filed the report. He never went near that section of the trail again. On March 8th, 2022, Davis was on a solo night patrol, standard route Gregory Bald Trail. At 9:52 p.m., he radioed me. Ben, you awake? Yeah, what's up? I'm hearing something. Long pause. It's Sophie. Everything in my chest went cold. Davis, get back in the truck, right now. She's calling me. She's saying, Daddy. I'm lost. Over and over. His voice cracked on the word lost. She sounds scared, Ben. It's not her. You know it's not. Get in the truck. I know. I know it's not real. Another pause. I could hear him breathing, ragged, shallow. A man trying to hold himself together. But she's crying now. I can hear her crying. She sounds exactly like she did when she fell off her bike last summer. That exact cry. How would anything know what that sounds like? Kyle, call Amanda. Right now. Confirm Sophie's in bed. She's saying, Daddy, please come find me. I'm scared. It's dark. His voice was breaking apart. Ben, she sounds so scared. She sounds like she's been out here for hours. Listen to my voice. My voice. Not that one. Get in the truck. Lock the doors. Call your wife. 15 seconds of silence. I could hear the forest through his radio. Insects, wind, and underneath so faint I almost missed it, a child's voice. High, thin, crying. I heard it. For the first time in any report I'd ever read, a second person heard the voice. It sounded exactly like a little girl. Kyle, I can hear it too. It's not real. Whatever that is, it is not your daughter. I know, he said, very quietly. I know it's not. But what if I'm wrong? What if something happened and she's out here? What kind of father hears his little girl crying in the dark and walks the other way? the kind who goes home to her alive. "Kyle, she's in Knoxville. She's in her bed." The radio was quiet for 10 seconds. I could hear him breathing. I could hear the forest breathing. I could hear that thin, high voice, crying in the dark, saying Daddy over and over in a pitch so perfect it put a crack in my chest. She's saying, "Daddy, please, why won't you come?" His voice had gone flat, hollow, the sound of a man whose resistance has emptied out. "Ben, I'm her father. I can't just leave her out here. I can't do it. Kyle, please." "I'm sorry." The transmission ended. I called him back. Nothing. Dispatch tried every channel. Nothing. I drove to the Gregory Bald trailhead in 14 minutes. His truck was there, engine off. Keys in the ignition, his phone on the passenger seat. He hadn't called Amanda. His flashlight was on the trail, 20 yards in. His radio 40 yards further. His jacket folded, placed neatly on a rock 50 yards beyond that. He was shedding gear, walking away from everything that connected him to his life as a ranger, as a husband, as a rational man, following his daughter's voice into the dark. We searched for 9 days. I walked every foot of that drainage myself. Dogs, helicopters, thermal imaging. Nothing. Not a boot print, not a thread, not a broken branch. Kyle Davis walked into the Smoky Mountains, and the forest swallowed him. I called Amanda the next morning. She screamed. Then she went quiet. Then she asked one question. Was it the voices? Kyle had told her everything. He wanted her to understand that if he ever disappeared, it wasn't because he left. It was because something called him away. Sophie was fine. She'd been asleep the entire night. She had never been in Tennessee. Whatever called Kyle, whatever, produced a terrified 8-year-old girl's cry so perfect that a trained, disciplined man abandoned every survival instinct he had. It wasn't Sophie, but it knew what Sophie sounded like when she was scared. It knew her name. It knew his name. It knew that, "Daddy, please come find me," was the one sentence Kyle Davis could not refuse. It found the exact frequency at which a man's love for his child overrides every rational thought in his brain, and it played it like an instrument. 7 months later. Night. Gregory Bald. I should not have been there. My supervisor had restricted me to day shifts. I went anyway. 10:47 p.m. "Ben?" I stopped breathing. "Hey, Ben." Kyle Davis. Not an approximation, not a similar voice. The same slightly nasal tenor, the way he shortened my name so it sounded like Bin. The same breathing between words, the same man I'd sat next to in a truck for 6 years. My hand was on my radio. My mouth was open. His name, Kyle, was sitting right behind my teeth, pressing against them. I bit down on my tongue until I tasted blood. "Ben, I'm down here. I need help." Northwest, downhill, the hollow. I stood on the trail, shaking, listening to my dead partner's voice. Then he said something that nearly broke me. "Remember the catfish, man? Fontana Lake. You said you'd never eat anything that ugly? I made you try it, anyway." That was real. July 2019. Off duty. Fontana Lake. I caught a catfish and refused to eat it. Davis cleaned it, fried it on a camp stove, and handed me a piece on a paper plate. Best fish I ever tasted. Nobody knew that story. Nobody. It was ours. "Come on, Ben. I need to show you something." Every part of me wanted to step off that trail. Not because I was tricked, because I missed him. Because some part of my brain heard my friend and needed to go find him. The same way Kyle heard Sophie. The same way Webb heard his mother. The voice doesn't work because it fools you. It works because it uses the one sound you can't ignore, the voice of someone you love, and it counts on the fact that love is stronger than logic. I stood there for 4 minutes. Kyle called my name 11 times. Each time it got harder. Not because the voice changed, because my resistance was draining, like holding a weight at arm's length. You hold and hold and hold, and then you can't. On the 12th call, I turned and walked east, counted my steps to keep my mind from listening. 147 steps back to the truck. I locked the doors. I drove to the station. I sat in the parking lot with the engine running until sunrise. Last month, Garza retired, 28 years. She came to my office the last day, sat across from my desk, looked at me the way she'd looked at me that first night on the Overlook in 2007. "You'll tell the new ones," she said. "I will. And they won't believe you. No. And eventually, one of them will answer." I didn't say anything. She stood up. "I heard my mother again last week," she said, "closing up the Cades Cove gate, just past dark." "What did she say?" Garza was quiet for a long time. She said, "Come home, Maria. Everyone's here." She looked at me. Everyone. Not just my mother. And for the first time, I didn't hear one voice. How many? Dozens. All saying the same thing. All coming from the same direction. She picked up her bag. "It's not getting quieter out there, Ben. It's getting louder. More voices. Closer to the roads. Closer to the campgrounds. Whatever boundary was holding whatever kept it in that drainage, it's thinning." She stopped at the door. Last year, the voice reports were all from deep backcountry. This year I've logged 3 from the Cades Cove Loop Road. That's a paved road, Ben, with street lights. She left. I'm still here. I still do day shifts. I still tell new rangers the rule. I still watch them smile and nod and not believe me. Some nights, in my house at the edge of the park, with the windows closed and the television on, I hear it, faint, through the walls. "Ben," Kyle's voice. Calm, patient, the same as always. And underneath it other voices, not words anymore. A low collective murmur, like a crowd heard from very far away, growing, layered, getting closer. The rule says, don't answer. I follow the rule. But the thing nobody tells you, the thing Garza understood, the thing Davis understood too late, is that the rule doesn't protect you from the voice. It protects you from yourself, because the voice will say your name, and it will sound like someone you love, and it will say the exact right thing. And every part of you, every instinct, every memory, every year you spent loving that person will tell you to answer. And the only thing stopping you is a rule that nobody wrote down and nobody can explain. Some nights I hear Kyle's voice, and Sophie's voice underneath it, and Webb's voice, and voices I don't recognize, all layered, all coming from the same direction, all saying the same thing. Come find us. Everyone's here. And I sit in my house with the lights on, and I don't answer. Last week, Amanda Davis called me, Kyle's wife, first time in over a year. Her voice was flat, controlled, the way a person sounds when they're holding something too heavy to carry. Sophie heard something last night, she said, outside her bedroom window. I closed my eyes. A voice, calling her name. Sophie is 12 now. She lives in Knoxville, 210 miles from the park. There is no forest behind her house, just a subdivision, streetlights, neighbors on both sides. What did the voice sound like? I asked. Amanda was quiet for a very long time. She said it sounded like her daddy. I haven't slept since that phone call. because the rule was written for the forest. Nobody wrote a rule for when it leaves.